This system in front of me is true hi-fi without the high-end price. I bought this Oldchen EL34 integrated tube amplifier on a whim off Amazon because I was targeted by an advertisement and it worked on me. But in this case, I'm okay with that. I paid $203 shipped, but it sells for about $320 on Amazon and it sometimes goes on sale. Old Chen has been producing these amps for over a decade or so, so I wanted to see for myself if they make any good products. To my surprise upon unboxing it, this thing is quite well made. Everything was well packaged from the factory, including the tubes. Amazon also did a good job double boxing it and not screwing up this delivery. The amp feels substantial in weight at 20 pounds with those beefy transformers, which I'll get back to in a bit. This amp does not come with the remote, and there is no option to add one later on. This is a single-ended Class A amplifier with an overall power output rated at 10 watts per channel at 8 ohms. The amp is somewhat handcrafted with point-to-point circuitry and internal wiring over a PCB, usually reserved for higher-end products. It comes with 4 tubes which are made by Svein, Pavan, PS Vane. I don't really know the correct pronunciation, help me out if you do, but you get 2 EL34 power tubes, 2 6SN7 preamp tubes, and 1 5U4G rectifier tube. This amp is self-biasing, so it's perfect for easy tube rolling without having to make adjustments when swapping in different tubes, which adds to the convenience factor, and it's ideal for noobs getting into tubes. The transformers claim to be custom wound using Japanese Z11 silicone steel, and if that's true, you are getting good quality internals, as Z11 steel is considered an audiophile grade material, usually used in premium components. The power supply is very clean, as this amp is dead quiet, zero noise coming from the transformers, and no hum or hiss coming from the tweeters. Speaking of tweeters, I bought the Klipsch RP600M as they were the best match for putting together a reasonably priced tube system. The speakers cost me $350. The RP600M are on sale, as I'm quite sure they aren't making more units since the release of the RP600M2s. So I'd grab a pair if you don't already have one, because they truly are one of the best bookshelf speakers to ever hit the market. I'm not going to go over these speakers in depth because I don't want to bore you with the 1 millionth review on these, but they are a tremendously good value, perfect for pairing with tube amps with the sensitivity rated at 96 dB. The sound signature is what you would expect from a proper Klipsch speaker. It's lively, engaging, and keeps me coming back for more. High notes in several jazz songs, such as the trumpet played by Miles Davis or certain piano segments, would sometimes sound a bit too forward with my Yamaha AS801. It would be overly clean and precise, like someone is injecting it inside my brain, you know? And the tubes really soften those peaks out without smearing it, and even with the Klipsch horn tweeters, it sounds just right. Warm, yet very clear and lively. Mid-range is where the money is with this Oldchen amp. Vocals sound incredible with space and presence that is very different from solid-state amps. Music comes off smooth and tonally rich. I am pleased with the output transformers as they have impact on this sound profile. What you get is a robust and natural sound without any listening fatigue. I almost found myself watching the music, if that makes any sense. The bass is great, but it's not the same as the Yamaha AS801. There isn't necessarily bass sag caused by the tubes, but the Oldchen with the stock tubes don't extend as deep. The 801 has more control over the drivers, but the tubes do have a pleasurable warm bass that honestly, depending on my mood, was more enjoyable. If you live in a small apartment or are a low volume listener, this setup would be excellent. I'm gonna do some tube rolling after I get a good sense of the current sound profile and see if I can get some deeper bass with other tubes, and will report back based on the results. But overall, the Svein, Pavan, whatever it is, these tubes that come with the amp pair very nicely. There is no subwoofer out on this amp, so you would have to get a sub that accepts a high-level connection such as a rel, or potentially use a splitter. That being said, I don't really have an urge for a sub in this system, and I'm coming from speakers that all throw down big bass, especially if my Klipsch R121 is switched on. I was reading some reviews that stated this amp does best with acoustic music, jazz, and kind of like vocal centric songs, but that really isn't the case. Electronic music and hip hop surprisingly sounds fantastic with this amp. I was expecting the amp to lose its composure with the bass demands, faster paced music, and the high frequency transients. But the old Chen keeps up, stays coherent, and provides a unique listening experience that you really must hear in person to truly understand. There are some limitations to take into consideration. There's only one RCA input at the back, meaning you would have to manually swap components unless you are using a switch. I have a fully mechanical switch, meaning it's passive, so it has no power supply that could potentially introduce noise. There's also no built-in phono stage, so you would have to have an external component or use the built-in phono in your turntable if it has one. Like many things in life, this amp is not perfect. Some areas for improvement. The power switch is literally the same as my coffee maker, which is not a compliment. It looks and feels cheap. The volume knob could also use a little bit more heft and resistance when turning it. It's not the worst, but if you fix those two things, I would be a happy man. There are some potential future issues that concern me. This is a Class A amp, so it produces a lot of heat. Excessive heat over time could cause failure internally, but only time will tell. Always make sure this amp has plenty of ventilation. Do not put it in a media cabinet. I did try pairing these with my Swans D3.1 Mark IIs, but it was not enough power to get good sound. Due to the low sensitivity, bass, mid-range, and even the treble was too thin for my liking. Sure, it plays music, but not with any efficiency. I haven't tried them with my bigger Wharfedale three-way speakers, but both are not exactly high sensitivity, although they are higher than the Swans. In my opinion, I think the Swans, the Linton, and the Evo 4.4 are best suited for solid-state amps to get the best sound out of them. A hybrid tube amp would be an exception, since you could have solid-state for the power and tubes for the preamp section all in one. Alright, and to wrap things up here, I love the purity of this setup for its analog nature and keeping things very simple. For the $553 I paid for the speakers and the integrated amp, this is one of the best bargains in hi-fi I could recommend. Every song and album I tested on this tube amp just sounded more interesting over solid state. Don't get me wrong, I love solid state amps, but the intimacy is far superior with most tube amps. After a long day, winding down in front of this system feels rewarding and relaxing. What more could you ask for under 600 bucks? If this amp were branded by a well-known name, I'm sure it would be double the price, if not more. I love all types of gear from chi-fi to high-end, and I'm very happy to have this part of my electronics collection. None of this stuff is sponsored or provided to me. I bought and owned everything I have pushed on my channel so far. If I feel something is genuinely a bad product, I will make it known. But I'm still waiting for that product. I give this Oldchen EL34 a solid 8 out of 10, meaning I highly recommend this for anyone looking for a secondary amp, or if you are just looking to explore the world of tubes without having to shell out big money. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them down below, and I'll try to get back to you. That's all I got for this one. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.